The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
No, it's not coded. Tell me when you're ready, Anne.
Hi, I'm so sorry I was muted.
Oh, that's okay.
This is Anne McGuire, marketing with vCom Solutions. I'm glad you could be with us today for our webinar, We Object, How Legal Firms Can Beat IT Spend Challenges in 2021. Presenting today's topic is Beth Miller, one of our business development executives, and Beth has more than 25 years in the telecom and IT spend management space, previously working for companies like Sprint and AOT&P. She's a resident of chilly Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yes,
Stay warm today. And she's there with her puppies and is well versed in the legal space. She has participated in the last 6 ILTA conferences, and you might have met Beth or seen her on the show floors prior to this year. So before we start, just a couple of housekeeping questions, items. We will be in listen-only mode throughout the webinar, but should you like to ask a question, and we do encourage that, please just type it into the question chat window, and we will get to your questions at the end of the session. Also, this is being recorded, and you will receive a copy of the recording in an email after the event. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Beth and let you get started.
Thank you so much, Anne. This is a topic very near and dear to my heart, and certainly one I could spend probably hours talking about. There are a lot of real examples of what success looks like for firms that have beaten IT spend challenges, and I plan to share some insights, and I hope people can grab a few nuggets out of this call. As we begin, I'd really like to start by talking about IT spend management challenges, which everyone should be pretty familiar with on this call. There are fundamental tasks that IT has to perform every day on a regular basis. We actually believe there are 9 phases or jobs to be done. Not only does IT have to perform these tasks, but you get inundated with all sorts of requests from partners, from fellow teammates, from your CIO, from everyone picking up the phone, calling you and saying, "Hey, can you help me?" Right. So, and based on the last ILTA survey that just came out, we have seen that there is an absolute increase in troubleshooting tickets, issues with users from working from home and getting things set up. So in these 9 jobs to be done, this is where I see a lot of challenges come from within firms. Most don't effectively manage these 9 phases, not because they don't want to or they're not skilled to do so. It's just that they don't have the time to do it. When each of these 9 phases are better managed, the firms are able to mitigate risk. They're able to create opportunities for efficiencies and cost savings. So as we move down the solution design all the way to analytics phase, I want to start with solution design and really kind of paint what these challenges look like for you. I know firms may be considering designing new solutions or Maybe it's SD-WAN or a phone system, or maybe they're simply just replacing or renewing services that they have that are out of contract. So firms need to take a look at what makes sense from both the short-term and the long-term perspective. And what I find is firms really need an expert to help them kind of weed through a lot of the noise, because no one can be an expert at every single type of service that you're procuring. And really, it's mostly because of the time constraint, right? So you know it's hard to find time to sit down and study different services and products to make a really informed, educated decision. So that's really kind of where expert advice comes in handy. When you look at solution design, firms really need to make sure that they're selecting the right vendor for their environment, and not just the right price, but the best price for the best service for the best solution. And what I hear at times is firms really think they're comparing apples to apples, but at times it's really not the case. So it's important to have all of the data around all of the vendors, the solutions, and have the expertise to identify any differences in the vendors. And we know it takes a ton of time to evaluate these vendors and really weed through that noise, as I mentioned before. On contract management, it's so important to know every single contract that you're managing. You should know where they are, when they expire, how to get better terms and conditions if you plan to renew those contracts. I was talking with an IT leader the other day, and he had just started with a new law firm. His comment to me was he had absolutely no idea who signed for any of the services there or where the majority of the contracts were. So he kind of felt like he was walking into it a little bit blind. And I hear that a lot, so that's not uncommon, right? Another huge time-consuming area is in regarding to managing orders. When you have multiple people in multiple offices and there's multiple types of services, it really does get pretty time-consuming to manage. And now with the work from home, it even makes it even more. Firms are going from maybe 40 or 50 offices. Now it's like 400 to 1,000 offices with the work from home. So then you add on all of the different multiple vendors that you have to deal with, and then you have all different contacts from each of those individuals. I actually saw a spreadsheet with a vendor the other day that had names and on a spreadsheet. So he had all of the different vendors, all of the different tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 support people all on this spreadsheet. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's great, it's organized, but that's a lot to manage. When it comes to asset management, it's really important to have firms know exactly where each asset is. They need to be categorized, right, by location, by carrier, by department, or by who's consuming those services, right? And am I still on? I want to make sure, because my screen just kind of went blank.
No, you're still here.
Okay, thank you. Apologize. And then, so it's really important to keep that accurate, up-to-date inventory. And so then when you're making all of these changes that are being done, sometimes things kind of slip through, right? And you forget to update the inventory. You forget to update who is attached to that, et cetera. So you want to make sure that that inventory is correct and it's allocated the right place, because then it's going to end up on a bill and you want to make sure that's billed correctly. From a service and support standpoint, it's similar to managing orders, right? And I kind of skipped over the order thing because I think that service tickets and orders kind of go in a line, right? So orders would be new services. You have to call the vendor, find out where the services are. Maybe you want to track when the date's going to come in. And then on the service and support, it's very similar to orders, but it's also more higher priority, right? You've got a partner that has no service and he's traveling with his cell phone, or internet services are down and nobody's able to do anything at the office. So it's really important to put some centralized services or a certain place where you can go to see where everything is located, and go and search that, right? So coming from the carrier world, being at Sprint for 13 years, I've had those calls from customers that were really pretty angry about services not being restored on a timely basis. And boy, did people get hot. So I'm glad to not be in that position today, but it's really important to have everything kind of centralized in a certain source. When you look at invoice management, it's really important, like I mentioned before, that when you're procuring the service and then you're managing that service and then you're making changes to those services, that it all matches correctly to an invoice. The key is am I paying for services that I'm not using? Or am I being overcharged, or are carriers not meeting the SLAs? So you want to make sure that all of that is in good flow. I talked to a firm the other day that had 53 vendors, which means at minimum of 53 invoices. And so some vendors can even provide multiple invoices. So you want to make sure that all of the costs are right, and it can kind of be a little overwhelming at times. So when you look in the accounting space, right, I know a lot of IT guys work with AP, right, to make sure that all of the services are billed correctly to the right location or person. And you want to make sure that, again, you're not paying for services that you're not using. Accounting needs their requirements, IT needs their requirements, and then you got to roll it all up into maybe a software like an Adirond or a Thomson or anything similar. But putting an automation in that process can help remove errors. Efficiencies are created, and then you're able to identify any anomalies or cost discrepancies. And then we get to analytics, right? That's the last kind of the 9 phases. So it's all about data, right? What kind of data can you get from the carriers? What kind of data can you get from the invoices? What kind of data can you get from all of these trouble tickets and orders and everything in order for you to make better, faster decisions? So all of these are tasks to be done, or we call them jobs to be done. And you're most likely doing all of these at your respective firm today. Some of you are doing these great, right? Or some of you are doing some of these great, but are you managing all of these 9 phases effectively? Or worse, maybe you're not doing some of these, or they're not being done at all. So there must be a better way to manage these 9 phases, to help streamline, to create efficiencies, to remove manual processes, to automate processes, to centralize, to save time, to get better information, to make decisions for the firm, right? You want to save the firm money, but you also want to look good in the process, right? So I ask you, what's preventing you from effectively managing these 9 phases? Is it because of time constraint? This is what I hear the most, right? Is time is something that you can't buy or get back, right? So it could also be that you're just thinly staffed, or your team isn't trained to effectively manage these. So, or maybe you just have multiple offices, or you have certain projects that need to be completed on time. So if you're nodding with me, or you're thinking yes, you're not alone. So let me paint a picture for you of really what your IT landscape looks like today. So many of you have complex networks today, along with some hardware on there, which are even growing in more complexity with each addition of new technology. The role of the network has really kind of changed and evolved, and now it's able to connect people and devices and information in a media-rich, converged network. Then you add on a pandemic, resulting in a ton of people working from home, causing bandwidth and security concerns, and it really puts a ton of stress on IT. And like most firms, you probably have quite a few carriers that you work with, so it's already complex network and a ton to manage. So let's add on mobile. Mobile itself is really time consuming to manage, and coming from the carrier world again at Sprint, it was all day, every day, getting calls, doing swaps, doing changes, adding orders, etc. And especially think about managing all of those buckets of data. And then when the new iPhone comes out, what happens? Everyone wants it, and then it causes a ton of workload for you. Whether it's corporate devices or BYOD devices, IT partners and staff have to make sure that the tools that your team needs to be successful is on that mobile device. And then you layer on mobile device management, which means more for you to manage. And then with the advent of cloud or SaaS services, it's really created a lot of issues around shadow IT. Cloud has been evolving very rapidly, and even more so kind of in the coming years. It's an integral part of any technology landscape today. And then when we talk about SaaS or software as a service, it's super easy for people to go out, sign up, and implement any kind of third-party solutions, right? In fact, people often bypass IT, right? They don't even ask for their approval. They just go out and get it. And then IT is left to clean it up. According to Gartner, and I think the number is right around 50% of companies' software application spend is made up of shadow IT. And from my understanding, based on the firms that I talk to, it's not quite at the 50%, but it's definitely getting up there. So not only do you have a network to deal with, a mobile to deal with, and SaaS and cloud, and then now security to deal with, but you have assets and services all across the globe, right? So then you have to think about all of those services and all of the other countries that you have to work with. And if you're not familiar with the lay of the land, it can be quite difficult. So all of these types of technologies are constantly interacting with each other, but they still require all of those 9 phases or 9 jobs to be done. Procuring it, to managing it, to making sure that it's filled right. So the end result is that it's just taking more and more time to get anything done. And sometimes things don't get done. So what if I told you there was a better way? Would you be open to it? When I talk to firms, I always ask them why they do certain things the way they do. And the typical response is that I get, well, I've always done it that way. And so there's no sense in upsetting the apple cart. It's just too much work. Maybe that sounds familiar to you. But I'm here to tell you there is a better way. And you can't do this alone. And what an IT team needs is a vendor to get them there. A vendor that has the experience and the knowledge of every area of technology, from network, mobile, collaboration, cloud, hardware, SaaS, and a vendor that has the experience, one that has hired individuals that work with the carriers and have a vested interest in the success of your firm. And that solution is an IT lifecycle management. And the power of lifecycle management is managing all of the 9 phases holistically to understand the performance as a whole and the ability to show the impact of IT to the overall firm's success. In fact, these 9 jobs are so fundamental and essential that IT leaders across the world are looking for vendors that have a software platform, a proven methodology, and repeatable steps for success. So you see all of the 9 jobs interconnect, right? So if you make a change in sourcing, it impacts your inventory, and then it also impacts the invoice. So if these jobs are not done, we know that's where challenges set in. One of my teammates said, you wouldn't drive a car without a steering wheel, right? I know I wouldn't, but in IT, you need kind of a steering wheel, right? A repeatable methodology and proven process that helps you better manage the entire life cycle. The fundamental thing that we ask our prospects is, do you need a platform and methodology to manage IT? Manage the entire life cycle from procure to pay. And once the client makes that decision, paving the road to get all of your IT assets into a single source becomes the journey. At vCom, we holistically believe two things. One is that you need a platform and a methodology to better manage IT. And two, there are 9 phases of an IT asset, or those 9 jobs that we talked about in the beginning, the jobs to be done. We know that effective management of the 9 phases improves the return on your investment and reduces firms' financial risk, all while building business continuity. As you can see, there are 3 phases or 3 types of managements that we offer: planning and procurement, operations management, and expense management. And the 9 phases that each asset has to go through, as well as the 37 different tactical areas that we can help your firm. It's a proven methodology, and it's one that we have fine-tuned over the 19 years of doing business. And our approach is, to our partnership with anyone, is to really start understanding your environment, loading the invoices into a platform, normalize and analyze those invoices, and begin to benchmark services against industry standards, all while building contract end dates. That's step 1. Identifying what you have so that you can fundamentally make a better decision on services, that whether or not that asset, that item of inventory, serves a purpose for your firm. And you know what the funny thing is during that entire process is something organic's happening, whether it's network or mobile or cloud or whatever it is. We're identifying cost savings through the consolidation of invoices or finding services that have been disconnected or services that you're not using, all because you took the initial step to invest into a platform to give you better visibility to make decisions. So let me pause this and my webcam. Stop sharing. Okay. All right. So let me, and I'm pulling over because I want to give you a sneak peek into our software. So hopefully you're able to see the software platform as well. We have listed the 3 management areas up top, the planning and procurement, operations management, and invoice management, and the 9 phases that an IT asset goes through, all through that life cycle. So a couple of the key areas I want to point out for you is really all around the sourcing and design process. So a lot of customers, let me give you an example first. I worked with a law firm that had their network come out of contract. And one of the things they wanted to understand is that they had no idea whether or not they wanted to continue with MPLS. They maybe wanted to look at SD-WAN, or maybe they were thinking about a different carrier. So they wanted to have all of their options out there. So one of the things that we did was take them through what we call a buyer's journey. This buyer's journey is really kind of a time savings for you guys, because vCom will go out, we'll go search all of the different vendors out there, match it up with the things that you're wanting to do from a network perspective, and then we'll bring you the solutions back at the end of the day. And then you decide, because we're agnostic, You decide who the vendor is that you want to choose. But we've done all of the legwork for you. Really, we've taken a lot of that off your plate, and then we bring you our recommendations and the vendors that we think that would provide you the best solution at the best price, right? We also store all of these solutions in here, so you can always go back and reflect on them and make sure that that was a good decision that you made. One of the super amazing things about our software is we have a shop tool. So it allows you to go source services in these 6 categories of spend on the fly. So if you wanted to pick a certain location of the country and you wanted to pick DIA or cable, it's very much like Amazon for IT services. So what happens is at the end of the day, once you fill out all of the requirements, we come back and you've got a slew of different options available for you. For example, there's 414 different DIAs. You can whittle it down by carrier, by bandwidth, by term, by conditions, however way you want. But one of the things that we offer is this aggregator. We call it Buyers Club. So it's an exclusive membership into a wholesale aggregated opportunity. So we take all of the spend from all of our customers, go out and procure the services from the carrier, less expensive. So helps you save off of your regular retail rates. So as I apply filters, and you can see all of the different options available on here, then pick, and then we'll help manage those services from procurement of the service to installation of the service, all the way to billing of that service. When I mentioned earlier that one of the firms that I work with, he started and he couldn't find any of the contracts. One of the things we do is we store everything in a document place, all centralized. You can go over here and put it into different categories, but you'll always know where all of the contracts are and when they expire. And as I mentioned, we start to build contract end dates on all of that and really keep you aware of when those services expire. The other thing that I want to point out is really kind of around that managed inventory space. We talked a little bit about asset management before, whereas you need to know exactly what you have, why you have it, how much it costs, and then you can make that decision of whether or not you need it. So as I look into any network services, you'll be able to see where everything is at all times. You can sort it by mobile, by collaboration, by cloud, by SaaS, by whatever type of service that you're looking for. The other thing that we do is to really kind of triage and pull all of the data in that procurement process. So as we procure the service, we're keeping track of everything, all the way down to the binding post information, all the way down to who extended the DMARC, when the contract expires. And there's even a place where you can put a picture in, right, of services and where those are located at. Again, you can see contract end dates, etc. And then from an invoice perspective, we want to make sure that you have all of your invoices into the platform, give you AP posting files all around those particular invoices, and any type of analytics that are around all of that data. So things like, spend trend, where is all my spend across all of the different groups? And then how do I drill down into each of those spend services and where do they exist? And at, what percentage of change has happened? But not only does the software, provide such valuable information, we have a team of experts that also are here for you, right? To sit arm in arm with you as we walk through all of the technology and the journey of renewing and procuring services. So I know I gave you kind of a little bit of a sneak peek into the type of services that we provide. But I do want to jump back into really sharing a little bit more about vCom. You know, we've been at ILTA probably for the past, 7, 8 years or so. I actually think it might even be longer than that. I've only been with vCom for pretty close to 6 or 7 years. It's been such an amazing journey, but we have over 35 different law firms that we work with, right? So we do have that expertise, and we've worked with other firms, small and large, all across all different types of services, from networks to mobile, collaboration and cloud. And, again, getting back to the exclusive buyers club, to be able to leverage all of those other law firms that are buying services, and then, being able to reduce your costs, it really is a huge benefit to you. And, the other, I'm just very passionate. I'm sorry, but I'm just so pleased that I could present this to you. Out of the 3 core values that vCom hopes and gains to deliver every day, these are those 3. 1, the savings of time. We hope that we can save you time in calling carriers, in calling vendors, in troubleshooting tickets and troubleshooting. So we plan, and our goal is to save you time. The other value that we hope to give you is information, right? Actionable data that allows you to make really good decisions for your firm. And lastly, the value of money. And we hope and pray that, using our aggregator and leveraging our consolidated invoices will help drive cost savings down for your firm and increase shareholder value. I do want to thank you for your time today. I hope you were able to gain a few little nuggets out of this. I'm happy to take any questions at any time, or to chat with you at a later date.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you for all that great information. Now would be a great time if anyone on our call has some questions. I'm also going to pop up a quick poll just to see if anybody is looking for any additional information. You can answer that poll. Let's see if there we go. You should be able to see that, I hope. And so Beth, let me go back and ask you a question or two. vCom's breadth of services is expansive. So for a number of companies, what is the best place to start?
As I mentioned earlier, the best place to start is really to make that decision that you want a platform, right? When you come on board, we'll kind of guide you, right? What is there a project that you have? Is there a goal that you're trying to achieve? And then we'll do a lot of that heavy lifting for you, and guide you through the process. Like I said before, there's so much depth and breadth of what we do. Not every customer does everything, right? So they just kind of start small and grow with us. So I think that, making that first decision and then allowing us to kind of guide them along the process.
Right. And in terms of, legal centric issues that firms are dealing with today, what is it that you're seeing that are really kind of the hot button topics?
Well, definitely services to the cloud, SD-WAN. I think a lot of the collaboration and conferencing tools have all kind of all happened already as kind of a natural process of going remote. But a lot of firms have made decisions on things kind of on the fly, and maybe have a lot of different tools. Like I talked to a firm the other day, they had RingCentral. Some people were using Zoom, and then they also had Teams. So what is the best solution for them? But and like I said, they just kind of did it all on the fly and to just try to get people up and running. And now they're looking at those solutions and kind of whittling it down into one or two.
Right. And in terms of how COVID and the pandemic affected the way legal firms are working these days, are we seeing a lot of activity in terms of even more remote offices and the challenges that IT environments are facing because of that?
Oh, for sure. The ILTA survey that I recommend, that I mentioned earlier, it talked about how IT is really kind of, they're ramped up with all of the trouble tickets as a result of all of this remote locations. Some of the things that I'm hearing is that some of that remote may or may not be going away. And a lot of firms are looking at maybe downsizing some of their offices into not quite as big as they used to and keeping some people left working at home. I think they thought initially that it would be difficult to put everyone at home, but after they realized that once they got there, it's really working well for them. And so you might see a little bit of a trend with offices kind of scaling down a little bit and allowing a little bit more remote players. So I think that what happens is like I said earlier, is you've gone from 40 offices now to 100 offices that you have to manage.
Right. And realign the IT infrastructure accordingly.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank everyone who has attended today. Thank you, Beth, for all that great information. If anyone has any questions, Beth is available. You can reach out directly to her, and she'll be happy to answer any questions that you would have. So thank you again for attending today, and I hope you all stay safe and stay healthy and have a great day.
Thank you very much.